Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Roadmap, a Clear Direction Advisors podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Vyse, a business strategist for service-based business owners who are ready to stop running their business on instinct and start building their business with intention. Every episode, we get into the practical side of growing and scaling a service business, the strategy, financial clarity, offers, team, and the systems that it takes to truly build something sustainable. Now, let's get into it. So we've talked about strategy, financial clarity, and your offers over the last 4 solo episodes. And if you've been listening along, you might be sitting with a clearer picture of where the gaps are in your business. And maybe you have a slightly uncomfortable awareness of how many decisions you've been making without a real framework underneath them. That's not a criticism, by the way. That's just where most service providers are. But today we are going to change that. So most business owners understand that they need a plan. They don't want to just be throwing things at the wall and hoping something sticks. And then when something does stick, not really knowing what worked. But the issue is they have no idea what their plan should actually contain. They have no idea if it should be 1 page long, 5 pages long, 20 pages long. They don't know how to make it something that they're actually going to use instead of having it sit on a shelf and gather dust, right? Or they're building a plan based on what they think is happening in their business, and it's not actually based on reality, right? So the end result is that they either have no plan at all, or they have a plan that's so abstract that there's no real guidance, right? When you have to make a decision, or it's based on something that isn't even their reality. So again, you can't really use it as guidance when you need to make a decision. Now, a plan is essential, right? So a bookkeeper that I was working with was hiring for a new position. So they had they already had a small team, but this was a brand new position in this role. So when we started working together, right, the very first thing that we talked about was, what is this role going to be doing? So what are the responsibilities, right? What are the requirements for this role? But also, what is it going to allow the owner to do? How is it going to change the owner's role in the business? And also, how is it going to affect the rest of the team? Right? That was very important when you're building, right, a hiring roadmap, which is what we were doing, is you really do need to know how that role is going to fit into the existing company and how it's going to change what it looks like now when this new person comes in, right? But we talked about, not only the roles or the roles responsibilities, and obviously, things like the educational requirement, years of experience, what the experience was, right? But of course, where to look for the new person, right? Should be looking on Indeed or LinkedIn, reaching out to your network, right? How do you interview them? What questions should you be asking? What should you be asking them, about their references? And when you're speaking with the references, what should you be asking them? All very important things when you're looking to add, right? But we went deeper. We also looked at their SOPs, make sure that their systems that they had in place were laid out for bringing this new person in. Because it was a brand new role, you need to make sure that the person coming in is going to have the structure in place to support them in that role, and they know what to do, right? The systems that you have, the software that you have, the SOPs that you have can make bringing that new position, and then, if you are, say, refilling a position, an existing position, making sure that that's an easy transition. But we also worked on their pricing and costing strategy, right? So we made sure that when they were quoting and sending proposals to clients, they had a very clear pricing strategy on how they were going to be doing that. So by doing that, right, it's again part of the systems, and it's still the owner's responsibility. But by knowing that and having the costing built into that pricing strategy meant that they knew that they were going to be able to cover the cost for all of the team members for that client what was left over for them as the business owner for their pay for working with the client, as well as what was left over to help with the rest of the business costs. Right. And so by doing that, right, again, helping with their systems. Now, they went on to have a successful hire, right? Very, very excited about it. And they were also incredibly excited about their new pricing strategy, right? So they now knew their margins, they were confident in their pricing, and, you know, two really excited emails from them. The first was, right, I implemented a new pricing strategy. I sent a proposal to a client. This is amazing. They accepted. I love it. Right. And then the second was, I found my new person. This is amazing. It is going so well. That's what having a plan in place as you are doing things in your business and having a decision framework to make your decisions through is what is going to help move you forward faster. Now, if I asked you to sit down right now and build your growth roadmap for the next 12 months, where are you going to start? So most people start with their goals, and that isn't wrong. It's certainly a part of phase one of my gap framework that I work with my clients, but it's not the true beginning either. The beginning where it really starts building your growth roadmap is an honest assessment of where you actually are right now, right? Because a roadmap that starts from the wrong spot is going to take you somewhere that you didn't intend to go. And sometimes when you look at your current reality, you actually have to go back and change your goals. Now, my framework is 5 parts, right? So we've got your current position. Again, that honest review, that honest audit of where your business currently stands. Not what you think, but what is the reality. This is their revenue, your profitability, your capacity, right? Your offers, your team, the systems you have in place, and the client journey. That is your true starting point on your map. Then we have to look at your destination, right? So this is defined specific goals for the next 12 months. Revenue targets, income targets, the number of clients you want to work with, the type of work you want to be doing and you want your team to be doing, the team size. And the more specific you are, the more useful these goals are. But we're also looking at your short 90-day goals. And of course, what you want to accomplish even further down the road in 2 to 5 years. We're also looking at your priorities, right? So all of the things, out of all of those things that you could be working on, what are the top 3 to 5 that are actually going to move you closest to your destination? Now, this isn't a to-do list. It's a strategic filter to look at what is moving you further fastest. The fourth is your decisions. So what are you going to say yes to? And what are you going to say no to in the next 12 months, right? If you do not have a decision framework, that roadmap is just a wish list. And if you find yourself not having a decision framework and saying no to things that aren't moving you towards your goal and your vision, right? You're actually taking yourself off the path and you're not going to get to where you actually want to be. The next is, right, your review rhythm. And this is the last part of it is how often are you going to check in on your progress, right? Because you need to be able to reassess and you need to be able to adjust. That review process needs to be included in your plan from the beginning. Because if you don't take time to check on your progress, you are, again, could find yourself going off on a tangent that isn't going to get you where you want to go. And maybe you've said yes to something that you really should have said no to. And maybe, maybe you didn't follow that decision framework the way that you really should have. But by having a review process, you can rein that in and bring yourself back on track. Now, my gap framework has 3 phases to it. The very first is the direction phase, right? This is looking at the vision for your business. Overall, what is it that you want to be building your business, and what do you want to be known for, right? And we've got the compass. This is your goals and your values. So your short-term goals, right, for the, the next 90 days, the next 12 months, the next 2 years, right? Getting into the long-term goals about what it is that you really want to be doing. Phase 2 is your current reality. This may be the hardest part of my gap framework because this is that honest review of what is really happening with your business at this moment. We look at the numbers, which includes your financials, but also your metrics, right? The offer architecture. So what offers are you putting out there, right? How do they fit together? What is the path when somebody, comes into your world? Your people plan, right? This is all the people in your company right now, and who do you need to add in order for you to actually grow and scale? Your operating foundations. So this is all of those things, your systems, your SOPs, right? All of those foundational pieces of your business that you need to have in place. Where are they at right now? Where are they a little shaky, right? What's your market position? This is everything to do with your marketing, right? So what does your branding look like? Where are you finding your clients? Who is your ideal client, right? All of those different marketing things that we really need to dig into to find out, are you working with the right people? Are you finding the right people, right? And do you enjoy working with the people that you're working with? And last piece of the current reality is the client journey. So this is taking a look at all the way from when a client comes into your world for your marketing, all the way to, right, the disengagement, that final offboarding, which depending could be short-term or, years down the road. What does that look like? And everything in between. Every time a client is talking with, right, your staff, your team, yourself, right? What does that process look like? And phase 3 of my gap framework is the growth action plan itself. So this is the roadmap, right? This is your priorities listed out, the action steps that you actually have to be taking, right? That decision framework, the metrics and reviewing that you're going to be doing and when. And the most important piece, the accountability. Because if you don't take action, nothing will ever change. Now, when you have a plan in place versus when you don't, right, there's the biggest shift is that you know exactly what you are working towards and where you need to focus and what you need to focus on first, right? You have concrete metrics that you're tracking and you have numbers to show your progress towards your goals. It's knowing that you don't actually have to flounder around when someone says, oh, what is it exactly that you do, right? Who do you work with? You know exactly who you want to work with. You know exactly who your ideal clients are. You know exactly how you help them and what you offer and why they need to work with you. You now have the easiest path forward to reaching your goals. Now, I want to tell you a couple stories about people that I've worked with. So one of my clients had absolutely, right, no traction with their messaging. And there was a couple of issues there. They had interconnected pieces of their offer, but they were leading with their least favorite part of their offers because they thought it was the easiest way to actually bring in clients. So we reworked their messaging and their offers in order to place that piece of the puzzle that was their passion, that they were excited about doing, that they really, really loved doing. They knew the other pieces were the connecting pieces and were required for what they did. But we put that to the front. And by doing that, we actually allowed them to differentiate themselves in the market, right? Which leads to a very clear path for how they're helping their clients. And their clients now know exactly what sets them apart, why they need to work with them, and how those pieces are connected and how that, right, that business is going to help them, do what they need to do. someone else that I worked with, right? They were taking some advice from, some coaches and gurus, right? The way that they were told to promote their business just didn't sit right with them. When you talk to them about it, you could see it felt heavy for them, right? And what they were told to do is to do webinars, right? So they were told this is the absolute best way to get people to like, know, and trust you. And you're going to be able to build your audience and build your authority and showcase your expertise. That's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But for this person, they didn't like the promotions piece of it. They actually didn't even like the preparation and the doing of the webinars. To them, it just felt really heavy and it was weighing them down. But when we were talking, I knew that they had a podcast. So I asked them, I said, well, what about your podcast? Instantly, going from talking for their webinar to their podcast, you could see they completely lightened up. They were excited about talking about their podcast. We're talking about their webinars was like, yeah, I've got to promote the webinar. I've got to decide on the topic. I've got to, get people signed up, and then I have to do the webinar, and then I have to send out the emails after and do the recording. When I asked about the podcast, oh, I love my podcast. I can talk about, I can talk on there all day, and I love having my guests on, and I have my solo episodes, very similar to what the Entrepreneur's Roadmap is. But you could tell they instantly lightened up. They instantly brightened up. They were happy. They were smiling. So I said, why do webinars? The podcast is the easy path forward. Both are going to allow you to build the like, know, and trust factor. Both are going to allow you to build your audience. Both are going to allow you to showcase your expertise and build your authority. And then, because you have the podcast, repurpose the content that you were going to do in your webinars and create a podcast episode. If it's too long for a podcast episode, create 2 or 3. Now you can go on all of your social media platforms and say, hey, you want to learn more about this? Here's a bit of a recap. Go listen, to this podcast episode or these 2 or 3. If they're talking to somebody and someone says, I need to know more about this particular topic, hey, I've got a podcast episode or 2 that you need to go listen to. And you can do that right on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can do it in networking events. You can do it in in-person events. Say, hey, listen, go listen. You'll learn about what you have. And then if you have questions, come back and let's talk. Right? So it's both would get you to where you want to be. Both of them would help them reach their goals. So the decision framework there is, which one is the one that feels the easiest? For them, it was the podcast. Now, not to say that, again, webinars are a great way to do that. But if you have 2 options, do the one that's the least resistance, that's still going to let you reach your goals, that's still within alignment for your vision and your values for your business. That's what having a roadmap, a strategic plan, a framework, whatever you want to call it, that's what having a plan allows you to do. So the businesses that I've seen struggle the most over the years are definitely not the ones with the hardest problems. They are the ones that are making their decisions in isolation without having that framework and plan to run the decisions through. So every decision that you make in your business is either going to move you towards your destination or away from it. A roadmap and a plan doesn't guarantee that you're going to get there, but it does mean that every decision that you make is at least pointed in the right direction. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, right, oh, only big businesses need to have a growth plan, right? They're the only ones that need to actually have that strategic plan in place. That's not true. I believe every business, no matter what stage of business you're at, no matter how big or small you are, you need a plan. You need that decision framework. You need to know where you're going, where you are right now, and the best way to move yourself forward. The other thing I've heard is things are just too busy. I will get to it when things slow down. The problem with that thinking is that things will never slow down. And if you're feeling overwhelmed now because you keep, bringing on new projects, bringing on new clients, bringing on new team members, and nothing quite seems to be fitting and clicking, having a plan is going to help with that. It's going to allow you to make sure that what you're doing is moving you towards your goals rather than just keeping you busy. That plan, that roadmap, it is the foundation that makes everything else in your business, your offers, your hiring, the financial decisions that you're making, right? The marketing that you're doing, it makes it cohesive and makes it intentional. That is what the plan does for you. Now, if you want support building your own growth plan, that's exactly the work, that's exactly the work that I do, whether it's in my one-to-one advising or in my strategic growth lab that launches in September. Now, that's it for today's episode of the Entrepreneur's Roadmap. So if anything that we've talked about today is something that you want to think through further, right? Please, one of the best things you can do, follow, subscribe, so that you never miss another episode of the Entrepreneur's Roadmap. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook, right? You can sign up for my weekly newsletter. I write about, that practical side of building a service business that actually pays you well. Talk about the strategy, the offers, the financials, the systems, the team, and all that stuff that a lot of business content just kind of skips over. You can sign up for my newsletter at cleardirectionadvisors.com. I've put the link in the show notes. And when you sign up for my newsletter, you're also going to get 5 key strategies to scale, which is going to give you some frameworks, the starting point of your own growth plan. Now, if today's episode made you actually want to build your own growth roadmap rather than just, sort of think about it for a while, again, that's the work that I do in my advisory. So you can find out more and book a discovery call at cleardirectionadvisors.com. Again, the link is in the show notes. And until next time, see you on the road.